Hello, hello, everyone. Coach Carmen here from the Happy Balanced Life. And today I have a special guest with me. Alicia is the founder of Empower Her. And on social media, you can find her as Wellness for Latina Moms. Alicia is helping women to lose weight, gain energy, and also avoid burnout, which is fabulous, especially today because so many women are exhausted. As I continue to discuss wellness this month, I wanted to interview her so she could share her journey on how she overcame her own health situation. And she did it with resilience and persistence. So I want you to hear this. So I hope I get this right, but myasthenia gravis is a chronic autoimmune disease or disorder, I should say, that affects your neuromuscular junction, like the point where your nerves and your joints or your muscles meet. And it causes pain and discomfort. And typically it can get worse. And it gets better with rest, is my understanding. So you could be, if you're misdiagnosed, like a lot of people are, then you are going to have a long battle with illness. And as a coach that thrives on helping others learn how to best care for themselves, I also love to bring people that are experts on that can share their story and tell you how they overcame their situation, just in case you ever deal with this and you can be better prepared. So, Alicia, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do in your own words? Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, first of all. I'm so excited to be here and share my story. My name is Alicia Rosales. I was born and raised in Somerville, Massachusetts. Um, I'm a health and wellness coach. I help Latina moms overcome burnout, lose weight, improve their energy levels. And I'm very passionate about showing women how to prioritize their health. I think it's necessary for them and for their families, especially coming from a background where for many years, I battled with myasthenia gravis. I know that name is a little sometimes hard to pronounce. Um, but definitely, after overcoming many obstacles, after overcoming this illness, I definitely wanted to show more of our Latina moms how to improve their energy levels, how to improve their overall health so they don't have to struggle or suffer with what I went
You know, I want to touch on something that you said. You mentioned Latina moms, and I know it says it on your site as well. And I know some people
through.
might be like, "Why not all moms?" Right? Well, as a
Yeah.
Latina, I can tell you that the way that we're raised is very much about everybody else. And
Hmm.
we're taught, and I know my mom, my grandmom, everybody in my family was like, "You need to take care of your husband, you need to take care of your kids, you need to take care of your parents. You're always caring for someone else." So as a Latina mom, we very rarely take time to and this is a cultural thing that's deep within us, right? It's not
Right.
just like, oh, it's nice to do, it's what you do, right?
Yes,
And so for
correct.
me, I love that you're focused on that because hopefully some Latina moms will resonate with what you're doing and they'll get the help that we need. So that I just wanted to
Exactly.
mention that just in case anybody's
Yeah.
curious about why the focus on
Exactly.
Latinas. I think that that's incredibly important. So,
Yes.
Alicia, you struggled with myasthenia gravis and I want you to tell us your story. First of all, start with what it is, because I hadn't heard about it until I heard your story.
Yes, so myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disorder that affects communication between the nerves and muscles, and it causes muscle weakness, fatigue, and it impact basic functions like speaking, eating, difficulty swallowing, um, and even breathing. Once it gets to that point, it can be fatal once it starts
Mm.
affecting your breathing. It's very unpredictable and every person is different. But for many, this disease is completely debilitating. Yeah.
That's awful. So what
Hmm.
is it? Oh, okay, tell me a little bit about your journey, but explain to me like how did it start? Because like
Yes.
sometimes we're all tired and we all feel muscle aches, right? So like how do you know the
Oh,
difference?
yes.
And more importantly, like I want to know after you explain that, like when you were diagnosed, like what was your response? Because I think your story is that it took a long time for them to figure out what it was.
Yes, correct. So, in the year 2014, I had moved to Texas, and that year, I had been traveling a lot. At the time, my boyfriend, but my husband now, he lived in Texas, so I was traveling a lot back and forth. And finally, I decided, let me go move over there. And I thought that maybe the stress of traveling, was causing a little bit of fatigue. And I started to notice that in pictures, my smile wasn't normal. It almost felt like I was nervous every time I smiled. And people started to ask me, why is your smile like that? And I would say, I really don't know. I'm not nervous. Um, so those were my initial symptoms in 2000, actually 13. Sorry. And then um, I got pregnant towards the end of 2013, and all of those symptoms disappeared. And as I understand it now, all the extra hormones in your body and antibodies from the pregnancy really boost your overall health and wellness. So I didn't feel, I felt good. And fast forward, I
That's
had
that
my,
pregnancy glow they talk about, right? You
yes,
really do. Yeah, the baby really
yes,
does help a lot of people with things. Yeah.
right. And fast forward to when the fall of 2014, I had my son, my first child, and we were excited. And probably, I think within 3 months after delivering my son, I started to notice these symptoms coming back, the smile, difficulty smiling. I also started to notice that the way I would say certain words weren't normal. I would start um, I would start saying things like maybe mispronouncing certain words, and I'll never forget it. I knew I was kind of getting worse, but I didn't say anything to anybody. I kept it to myself. I thought, well, maybe I'm just feeling extra tired because of the baby. Obviously, it's a newborn and we're new parents, right? And I was like, oh, maybe I just need to maybe rest a little bit. Of course, we don't rest as moms, right? We just kind of are on the go, go, go. And I just remember that having conversations with people the more I spoke, the less I could pronounce the words. Until one
Mm.
day, my sisters came to my house and I was having conversation with them and they heard me mispronounce a word. And at first, they thought that I was just mispronouncing or my accent came out or something like that. And they kind of were like laughing it off. And then I don't know what, to be honest, made me share, hey, no, I'm actually having these weird struggles with my speech. And they were like, okay, that's not normal. And then I just felt like from there, it just kind of got worse. And then I ended up going to the emergency room because my speech really, really got bad. I couldn't
Mm.
smile and the fatigue was starting to take over. So I go to the emergency room right away. They urgently admitted me and they thought I was having a stroke. So I get transferred to one of the main hospitals in Boston and I was there for 3 days. They did all the lab work, the MRIs, everything was normal. There's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you're just tired. You're a new mom. These things could happen. And I was like, okay. So I went home and then I started to notice in, January of 2015, up until April of 2015, my symptoms just got worse. They progressed. My fatigue progressed. Um, it got to the point that I couldn't even talk. My twin sister, she would translate for me. She would go everywhere with me because nobody could understand what I was saying.
Mm.
I had trouble chewing my food. I had trouble swallowing. And every time I would go to the doctors, I would end up in the emergency room so many times. Sorry, forgot to put it on silent. I would go to the emergency room so many times, and it was always the same thing. We don't know what it is. Then finally, in April, I got admitted again, and it was really tough for me because I was working at the same time and trying to
Mm.
work and trying to hide my illness was tough. I didn't want to be seen at work as unreliable or irresponsible. And there were many times that I went to work and I couldn't talk, and I had to communicate with customers. And sometimes the customers would get annoyed because they couldn't understand what I was saying. So I was going through all of this kind of like in hiding. I wouldn't really tell anyone what's going on. Finally, in April of 2014, the doctor said, it's postpartum depression. We're going to give you depression meds. And
Can I
um,
just interrupt you for a second?
yeah,
I think that that's so interesting because I know about postpartum depression, but I've never heard of
yeah,
somebody's speech or like chewing
right.
changing because of that. So that's such a weird like
Yes.
diagnosis to me.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And the funny part out of all of this was that I would tell the doctors, yes, I'm depressed, but it's because no one can tell me what is wrong with me? I physically can't eat. I can't swallow. I choke on my food because, not to be graphic, but there were times where I literally had to pull food out of my mouth because it wouldn't go down. So,
Wow.
right. And then, I and they were just like, no, we checked everything. Everything is fine. So it's all in your head. It's a postpartum, and it's all in your head. So I started going on depression medicine because, I did mention, yes, I am depressed, but I think I don't have postpartum. I think it's because no one can diagnose me. Um, and like I said, I was getting more and more weaker. I couldn't even hold my son because my arms would give out. I constantly needed help. And then, one of the common things about autoimmune disorders is that, yeah, they're also called invisible illnesses. And many times you don't look sick on the outside, but you are, and you feel terrible, but people can't see it. So it's hard for people to believe you as well. So I struggled
Right.
with that too with my family, where they were kind of doubting that I was sick, and going through, so literally going through all of that was even tougher, because then you really feel alone. You feel like you're the only person that is going through this. And then at that point I was like, you know what, I think I do have postpartum. I think I do have depression, because nobody else sees it, and it must be my head playing tricks on me. So
You know,
I decided, yeah.
no, I was gonna say I think it's also a very rare thing, right? Isn't it like 100 people I read something like it was like 100, 150 people per billions of people worldwide have this, right? So, because
Yeah,
I
it's
was
very
thinking
rare.
Boston is one of the best, Boston has some of the best hospitals and doctors,
Yeah.
right? So I was just thinking
Yes.
about that now, that the
Yeah.
stats must be really low for them not to be able to pinpoint it.
Right, right. And like I said, um, I just felt like my health was deteriorating. I was still pushing through, because I thought, well, I think that it's all in my head. So I just have to work out, lose weight, lose the baby weight, and everything will go back to normal. Um,
Mm,
without knowing that I was actually doing more damage to myself, because I literally had to rest and obviously get the proper treatment, because I was already in a flare. And once it would hit my lungs or my breathing, then it was going to be, like I said, fatal. So I ended up going on the depression medicine. But the funny thing is that I went on the depression medicine in June. And a person that has myasthenia gravis has to be really careful with the type of depression medicine they're on, because some of the depression medications also have the muscle relaxers, and I cannot take
oh,
muscle relaxers. And I remember I started to take the depression medicine. And because I truly believe, because I wasn't depressed, I started to have these weird side effects like hallucinations from the medication, but also the myasthenia symptoms drastically um, like got worse. They got really, really bad. And then I started to have the trouble breathing. My sister brings me to the emergency room again, the same emergency room that I keep going to. Um, and at that point, they were like, we're going to have to admit her to the psych unit. She definitely needs extra, medication, because her postpartum has gotten really. And my sister, thank God, she fought for me, my twin sister, and she said, no, I know she's one person that has never struggled with mental illness, and this is just doesn't look like mental illness. So please don't transfer her to the psych unit. Please transfer us to a different hospital. And I get
yeah.
transferred to Mass General Hospital. And right away, they did the proper testing. They knew the moment I got there. My sister said, "This is what she's been having. This is what she's been experiencing." The neurologist came. The specialist for neuromusculars came down to see me, and I got admitted. I got treatment. I got a diagnosis then. um, but it was definitely a battle to get diagnosed. And I got there in time, because, like I said, it was already starting to affect my breathing. So I was in a major flare. And what made it worse were the depression medication. Yeah.
That's amazing. So luckily you have your sister to advocate for you, right? Or
Yes.
this could have turned out
Yes.
differently. Yeah. And a
Yes.
twin, I'm sure she's feeling it all, right, with
Yeah.
you.
Oh
So
yeah. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you've overcome this, because I know it was a battle, right? They
Yeah.
identified it finally. They
Yeah.
helped you with whatever treatment you needed. What would you
Yeah.
say are the lessons that you learned? First, let's talk about like advocating for yourself, right? And
Yeah.
then tell me a little bit about like just the mindset and resilience you have to have these type of challenges and overcome them.
Yeah. So definitely, after the diagnosis, although I was relieved that I had diagnosis, it was very clear. They said, you're going to have this forever. This is something that will never go away. And you're going to
Wow.
have to just, kind of, we're going to have to roll with the treatments and see what best works for you. And I was like, okay. So it was like bittersweet. I had a diagnosis, but, it was tough. So, um, after getting diagnosed, obviously I went on so many treatments to at least manage the myasthenia gravis. So it was from 2015 up until 2020, different treatments, different
Wow.
medications that suppress my immune system. I would end up in the hospital from infections, from colds. Like I had to be careful with my kids if they were sick. I had to be careful because I was suppressed. My immune system was suppressed. So I would get sick, and if I got anything, it would be 10 times worse than
Wow.
anybody else. So definitely a battle after that, and um, I would say that. It was definitely taken a toll on me, even though I was, you know, in kind and somewhat of a more stable situation. I feel like the quality of life was really not the best. And I was starting to miss out on family events, my kids' lives, because although I was stable, the symptoms were still there every day. So if I
Mm,
started to notice weakness, I had to go take my medication, and the medications have side effects, right? My infusions had side effects. So uh, definitely there came a point in 2020, um, that I was like, I can't do this anymore. Then I was starting to really get depressed. I think there's so many people had these moments in 2020, right? We're in the middle of the pandemic,
yes.
and we're sick, and everybody's getting sick. And then I'm starting to get depressed because I'm at my heaviest. The prednisone had caused my weight to skyrocket.
Yeah.
I I don't have like I'm not able to do any physical activity because I get tired. I'm not able to keep up with my kids. I was always laying down, resting. Like I said, not the best quality of life. And I'm sorry, I think I went off the question, but uh
No, you're fine.
so then, obviously, then comes a time in 2020 where, I'm a big believer. I'm a faith-based person, and I believe in God. And I just at this
Amen.
moment, I was like, God, I can't do this anymore. I am very unhealthy. I'm very sick. How am I supposed to serve you the right way if I'm this sick and all I want to do is serve you? So help me,
Oh, amen.
help
I
me,
love
Lord.
that.
Yeah. And I remember just crying out in desperation, like, what do I do? Because, like I said, I felt so hopeless at that point in 2020. During this time, I was working in a financial company, and it was actually my last week in this position, and I was going to get transferred to another department. And part of my work in this field was um, making sure that business accounts that were coming in were fraudulent accounts. We were revising business accounts from all over the country. So we would randomly get assigned accounts. It was never like the ones it was never picked by us. It was randomly assigned to us. I remember this last week in this position, I come across an application, and one of the things that said on the application said, the business pitch said, I help women improve their chronic illness symptoms and control their weight. And I was like, I wonder, like, So I quickly took her Instagram, like, 'cause they had to list all of their, business, their websites, Instagram
Sure.
accounts, social media accounts. So I quickly grabbed her Instagram account and saved it in my phone, and then went off, in my day. Then I came home, and I was like, searching her information. I was like, could this be it? Because this lady really helped me, because obviously social media, you don't know. Something just said, just send her an email. So I did. And, seriously, when I say, God, like, is so good. And I always tell her, like, you're my angel, because up until this day I see her. And she she helped me. We did a 12-week course, and she taught me everything I needed to know on how to improve my symptoms. Um,
Oh,
and from there, I was just like, oh my God, there is a way to improve my symptoms. And within like the first week, I noticed, being in on her doing our personalized one-on-one, even in the first week, I noticed an improvement in my symptoms and improving my weight. And we did this for 12 weeks. And I
wow.
was like, I can't believe I have energy. I can't believe I'm losing weight. Like I said, we did this for 12 weeks, and then she just became my health coach. I mean, like I said, 5 years later, I'm still seeing her, but that was she was my answered prayer, right? I had been asking for this for the longest time. And, I was able to really, really pay attention to the things that I was doing. And I was really harming myself without even knowing. I thought that maybe, oh, no, this is not bad. And I didn't realize how certain things were really affecting my health, causing inflammation and making my symptoms worse. And then thankfully, the past 2 years, I've been on remission. And now, like
Yay.
I said, now I'm working to help other women also improve their symptoms. Even if, like I said, at that moment when I was like, like I said, desperately praying to God, I said, even if it's a little, even if it's just a little, please help. um, but God is always so good. So here I
I know
am,
he always goes over, right? He always over does
right,
what
he'll
we
goes
want from
over it.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
love that story. Can you tell me a little
yeah,
bit? Is she so first of all, I love that you still have a health coach even though you're a coach because people don't
yeah,
get that, but
yeah,
I think it's so important to like have other coaches in your life, right? So
right.
I had a business coach and I remember people being like, "Well, you know this stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes you just need somebody else."
Yes,
By your side because we don't know everything. And
right.
the more that we can lift each other up and help each other and support, most
Yeah,
coaches specialize in something, right? So is
right.
she somebody who specializes in autoimmune diseases, or she just is a holistic health coach?
So it's funny how she has evolved. I feel like we're always evolving, right? We're always
Yes,
changing. And she um is now, I think she specializes now more in the gut and hormone health. But when I first met her, she was um a health coach in holistic healing.
got it.
And now she has, I think, kind of transitioned into this more of like a gut and hormonal health. I think, obviously she might still do the holistic coaching and stuff like that. I'm not really sure because like I said, I still see her, but we're more on a kind of different
Yeah,
scale now. But um definitely, I feel like she has kind of transitioned as the years have gone by, and now she definitely helps women with gut and hormone health, which I feel like um gut gut health is so important in balancing symptoms for your autoimmune diseases as well. So I
absolutely.
think it
Yeah.
all ties in together. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Mhm.
So touching on something you said earlier, that this autoimmune disease is considered like an invisible disease, right? So
Right.
I think that that's so true with a lot of autoimmune diseases because
Yeah.
you are the one that's feeling whatever the symptoms are, and other people
Mhm.
cannot, right?
Yeah.
So I think of lupus. I know a few people
Yeah.
that have lupus, right? And it's something that
Yeah.
it's not always something visible from the outside, but those individuals are exhausted. Sometimes
Yes.
their organs are being attacked or their skin or whatever, and you cannot
Right.
tell by looking at them, but they're in a
Yes.
lot of pain and they're
Oh
exhausted and a lot
yeah.
going on. So I'm glad that
Yes.
you mentioned that because I think we're visual creatures, right? So we're used to if
Hmm.
somebody says I'm sick, like I want to see something like that looks makes you look sick,
Yes.
right? And so we don't want to believe it, but there is a lot of diseases out there that are not as visible, but the person's definitely suffering. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes.
So excuse me, Alicia, I love that you have used this experience to sort of grow your own business and do your own thing and help other women, and I'm sure men in their healing journey. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you transitioned to that work and how it's going for you?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned throughout this entire journey was investing in my health was the most important investment that I made for myself.
Mm,
And what I wanted to do was also reach out and teach my Latino community how to prevent these illnesses, right? And I think for me, mostly as as a Hispanic or in our Latino community, I think that one of the common things that I see in a lot of our people is chronic illnesses like diabetes type 2, high blood pressure, cholesterol, coronary heart disease, and cardiovascular diseases. So I was like, I think we need to, help because all of these diseases, I feel that stem from just unhealthy eating patterns our whole lives or unhealthy lifestyles, um, that we probably have had since we were little. And, I was thinking, how can I um, help our Latino community prevent from getting sick? Because I've seen it firsthand where, many of my close family and friends end up getting, diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at a very young age. So imagine all the damage that's already going to cause you and
Yeah.
or getting stents in because your arteries are clogged, and I believe that's because of the food we eat. It
Yeah.
definitely plays a role in our health. So I went and got certified because I felt that I needed to spread this. I needed to, help our Latino community, but I have to go get certified. So I went to get and got certified. I did
Good
a
for
year
you.
of health and wellness coaching and nutrition, and then I started, uh, talking about it in social media. I wasn't big at first because I've never been a person, that is on social media. And I feel like, all right, if I need to get my story out there, I'm gonna have to get in front of a camera and start talking about it. Because if not, no one's
Yes.
gonna hear. And obviously that one-on-one, in front of people is also very good. And then I started to share my story, and then I started to reach out to women that, have been struggling with different things, like psoriasis or the thyroid issues, women that have had thyroid issues. And really, we're not really talking about your illness. We're just talking about your overall wellness. And let's see what we can do to improve your overall wellness. And as they start implementing these changes, right, then
Mm.
they start seeing progress in their symptoms. And they start seeing that their energy levels are rising, that their skin is clearing up, that they're starting to now have energy to exercise. Now they're starting to feel good because one of the most important things for me was my energy levels. Because if I didn't have energy levels, I wasn't gonna go out for a walk. I wasn't gonna be able to, even for me, even things like going up a flight of stairs. If I was going somewhere, I would have to think, okay, how many stairs are there in this building? Am I going to be able to
Hmm.
make it from the bottom to the top because of the
Right.
overall fatigue? Um, so I think that working on your energy levels is so important because I truly believe that once you have your energy level stable and you're feeling great, you're feeling, your absolute best, then it's just going to motivate you. It's going to help you do the rest, eat well, sleep well. Like there's just so much that goes into your wellness that sometimes we don't realize. And I feel like every part of this wellness, every part of whether it be um, sleep or trying to control the stresses of your life, stress management, nutrition, exercise, changing your mindset. All of these things are so important for your overall.
But the funny thing is, people don't realize that the health coaching industry is a growing field
Yeah,
because there's a lot to be said about Western medicine and how much time they give our patients, right? So doctors are today like, like a turning door, right?
right.
Literally, like you go in, you might wait 40 minutes, but you only see them for 5. They only ask you for
Yeah,
certain questions, and they don't get the training that they need when it comes to nutrition and
right.
food and other things that they need. They really are so scientific, which is needed. I'm not bad mouthing it.
Yeah,
There's a
right.
need for that, but
Yeah,
most people need more time. They need support when it comes to their diet, their exercise, their sleep, their stress levels, which is out of control, right? So
right.
there's definitely a demand for it. And I'm glad because I
Yeah,
think it's going to continue to expand because now more doctors are actually hiring health coaches to come in and
yeah,
support them, right? So
right.
you mentioned that type 2 diabetes. I'm a doctor. I'm going to tell you, hey, Alicia, you have type 2 diabetes. I'm going to send you to a nutritionist. Nutritionist is going to talk to you one time, give you information, and you're out the door. You're on your own.
Right.
The health coach
Yeah.
is going to work with you to see what changes you can make in your life to
Right.
improve that and decrease your diabetes or or at least have a better quality of life.
Yeah.
So it's good that we're raising awareness about this because I think there's a real need for more health coaches out there and people to understand what they do. Now,
Right.
unfortunately, insurance companies they don't accept it right now, but there's my understanding, I'm part of a health coaching group, that there
Yeah.
is an increase in companies wanting to get them approved because,
Yes.
and it's a job that is really needed in the industry. And health coaches work in different fields. Some of them work with, they just do like they make cookbooks or meal plans, and some of them work with fitness people, but some of them have very specific niches, like you said about your coach who is now doing gut health, right? There's menopause coaches, there's
Yes.
chronic disease coaches, there's autism coaches.
Yeah.
Now there's coaches
Right.
that are going to help you improve your wellness from all different aspects of life. And I love that. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up. So
Yes.
Alicia, what else do you want to share with our audience today about anything at all? Like anything about you, coaching, wellness, anything that you want to share today before we go?
So one of the things that I want to remind um, every mom that is listening out there is that your health matters. You don't have to wait until you're sick or completely burned out to start prioritizing yourself. You should be doing it now, right?
Yes.
Um, and small changes add up. You're worthy of feeling good, of having energy, and living life to the fullest. One of the things that I I say I will never get this back. And one of the things that I tell my clients, to really sometimes the financial part can be, oh, like maybe I don't have money or I don't have the time to invest in myself right now. And at the end, when you do start getting sick or when you start not feeling well, all
Mm,
of that adds up. Um, and I only say that because I used to be the same way. Oh no, I don't want to buy these supplements for myself. Or no, I don't want to buy healthy organic food because it's expensive. We tend to go
mm-hmm,
for the cheaper, and it costed me a lot more than what I invested in my coach because not only was it a financial cost, but the emotional cost because I there's time that I'll never get back with my kids. And there were so many years that I missed out on a special
mm,
event in my family, special time with my kids, because I was either admitted at the hospital, I couldn't be, present because mommy was sick. And there were times that I was at the hospital. I was leaving to the hospital because I already knew, okay, a flare's coming. I need to go because when I would feel a flare coming on, I needed to be rushed to the hospital. And seeing my son right at the door and me telling him, Mommy will be right back. I just have to go see the doctor. But knowing that mommy's probably not going to come back for a couple of days. And then
yeah,
having to make that phone call of, hey baby, I'm not coming home today, and having to see his face and his sadness, that things that
yeah,
broke my heart. And the moment I would, you know, hang up that call, I would have to, cry by myself in the hospital room because the disappointment in my son's face, and
yeah,
was missing something important. So I definitely feel that, I always say I don't want moms to ever have to go through that, to ever have to be on that phone and say, Mommy's not coming home today. Because
yeah.
like I said, I had to break their hearts so many times. And I'm so thankful though that now everything has changed around for our family and that I'm more present and like I said, they're just, much more and they motivate me too, make sure to mommy
Yeah.
keep going because you're doing well. They're so proud. So definitely one of the things that I wanted to leave to anyone that's listening.
I love that advice. And
Mhm.
one thing that I think moms don't realize is like you love your kids so much and your
Yeah,
family and you want to do so much for them. But if you do not take care of yourself,
yeah,
that's a problem, right?
right,
Self-care is not selfish. And by the
yeah,
way, your children are watching. So if you're
yes,
smoking, you're not sleeping, you're eating
yeah,
chips and all the crap and
right,
going through the drive-through all the time, that's what they're going to learn. Not what you tell them to
exactly,
do, but what you
yes,
do. They're watching constantly. So when they see mom preparing healthy meals, when they see mom, let's go for a walk or a bike ride, when they see
yeah,
mom quit smoking or like telling their kids like we have to go to bed at a certain time because we need this much rest and this is why, you're helping
yeah,
your kids to have a better future, right?
Right. Yeah.
Instead of, like just don't do what I do what I say. That does not work, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm,
Mm-hmm.
I wish more moms would see that they are really the kids are watching 24/7, that they are the example for them in the life that they
Yeah.
want to have, right? And
Yeah.
it starts with
Yeah.
you. If you take care of
Yep.
yourself and you feel good about yourself, especially like when I talk to clients, sometimes I'm shocked that they don't have any time for themselves at all. And they're like,
Right.
I can't because like I have to take care of I gotta drive my son to soccer and my daughter needs this and my husband that and blah blah. And I'm like, okay. And then what about you? Like when do you have time? They don't. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
they're shocked at the shift when they do start taking time for themselves, not only for the way that they feel, but the way that their family responds,
Yes.
right? Because
Right.
the family's like, oh, wow, mom's taking care of herself and they're proud of
Yes.
you. And mom's
Yeah.
in a better mood and mom
Yeah.
feels more rested and they're seeing all those things. When they grow up, they're going to
Right.
be like, it's okay for me as a female to take a break.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
okay for me to go to my room and do my nails or read the book or go get the massage or take the walk because I
Yes.
deserve that. Instead
Right.
of being guilted into, as we were, taking care of everybody else first until we're dying.
Yes. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
literally and figuratively.
Oh yeah. So I feel like that's, I feel like we were modeled that forever, right? That
Yeah,
um from our moms, from our grandmothers, that we have to, do everything. We can't ask for help. We have to be their way of resilience was you have to do everything for your family, and to the point
right.
that, I always say a story that I remember, being really sick, and I needed to take my medication. And for a lot of these medications, you have to eat before you take the medication. And I just
Yeah,
remember sitting, grabbing food, and one of the people that were at the party was completely shocked that I didn't feed my kids first. And why are you eating first? Your kids need to eat first. And then in my head, I'm like, "God, I have to take my medication, because if I don't take my medication, then I'm going to get sick and then I'm not going to feel well." But then the guilt and the shame starts to set in. So I was like,
yes.
yeah, I forgot. Let me feed them first. And then when I come and sit down, my fatigue levels were terrible. I could barely eat, and now I have to take this medication. Right. So
Yeah.
then once you start changing your mindset, then you start, recognizing, no, in order for me to be okay, I need to sit down, eat, take my medications, and then I'll have the energy, or I'll have the strength to get up and feed my kids. Most of the
Yeah.
time
And I
they're
think,
just playing in parties, so it's like you
yeah.
have that little leeway, but definitely.
Yeah, it's funny because I do feel like, I'm a old school Latina. I'm still doing the cooking, cleaning, and take care of the family and all the things, right? But I think that there's a balance in being able to say, you know what, I haven't had time for me in a while, or I need to do something for myself first, and that's okay.
Right.
And just not
Yeah.
feeling guilty about it. And that takes a while. It takes a while to
Yeah.
get there, but it's
Yeah.
so necessary for us as women,
Yes.
as caretakers, as nurturers, to take care of ourselves so that we are not, we are not in a space where we have an empty cup, right? And then we can't help everybody
Right.
else. We can't pour into anybody
Right.
else.
Right.
Fabulous. Hey, I'm going to ask you this last question. Where can folks
Yes.
find you if they want
Yeah,
to
you
learn
can.
more about, your coaching or your story or your products, anything at all?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at wellness underscore for underscore Latina moms, and email Alicia Rosales 0916 at gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yes.
Alicia, it was wonderful talking to you today. I appreciate you
Thank
taking time to
you.
tell us your story. I think it's so important for people. Hopefully, somebody out there will hear it that has had some similar maybe symptoms and doesn't know what it is and can, get some help for themselves. And if not, they can reach out to you if they need some additional support. So thanks again for
Yes.
listening, and I appreciate your time. For
Thank you so
everybody
much,
that's
Carmen.
watching, thanks for listening. And if you don't already, follow Coach Carmen Carrion on Instagram, Facebook, excuse me, like and subscribe to the YouTube, and same thing for Alicia once we post all of her information below. Thanks for listening.